You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Michael.
What's going on, man? Good
It's
to meet you.
it's another day. Now I have a question for you. So the main question is, what do you typically would say think about, or what is typically on your mind, at least as of recent?
Of course, the COVID, but I mean, out here in the woods, COVID is not really big on my mind. So that's been dominating headlines, been dominating everything. So you have to think about it to a certain degree. But out here, I mean, I just recently quit my longtime job that I'm actually 41 years old, and I was employed for 20 years with one company. So I just quit after 20 years. So I'm branching out. So that's been big on my mind. Of course, death, as you know, so seven. That's just me.
You're
What about you?
wait, you're 41 years old.
I am. I
You
am.
look terrific for 41 years old.
A lifetime of manual labor will kind of keep you in shape.
It's all that vitamin D. It's what they were saying. All that vitamin D.
It is, man. It's not. That's not a myth. There's a reason why you evolved naked out in the sun to absorb. You evolved in symbiosis with your environment, and when you isolate yourself from it, you are going to get sick. You are going to get sad because you have to be in the sun. So
It's
it does help a little bit.
it's kind of important not only to your growth to at least get some sunlight, but I mean, just experience life in general. Like, I understand people that want to play maybe video games all day. Like, I can get that because I used to be into them a lot. But man, when you go outside and get some, like, I live by the beach. So when I walk outside and smell fresh salt air, it's just like, it wakes you up, man. And there's stuff that you miss about it. I mean, on the daily, like, how many things do you notice when you really take the time to sit and notice things? You miss a lot. Like on a regular work day, I could just get in my car, drive to work, and completely miss out of what the air smells like, what's the weather outside. I mean, our weather's been fluctuating. We have like 30-mile-an-hour winds right now, so it's not the best. But when you walk outside, it's like, okay, I don't need to really wear a jacket. I don't really, I don't. It's not winter. It's not summer either, but it's right in that cool. Like, feels like a little bit like fall, even though it's heading towards spring.
No, yeah, I mean, the world that we live in now, we can live in it because we're very adaptable, but we didn't evolve. Nothing, millions of years, or at least hundreds of thousands of years of our existence, we evolved outside, living outside, existing outside. And it's only in the last few hundred years that we've cloistered ourselves in these cubicles. And in the last 50 years, where you put yourself all the time inside because you don't have to go outside and kill animals or farm. So this is an interesting experiment at this moment in time, what we're going to be. There's a reason why we're so sad all the time and so depressed and so filled with anxiety, because we don't get to experience actual physicality during the day. We don't actually get to experience it anymore.
Now, do you think it's better now or better back in the day? I mean, medical wise, probably better back now or better now. But when it comes to like the mentality of people, I would say it's better back in the day. There was a little bit more closeness together. And I think it comes from that survival aspect. When you're not hunting or you're not worried about food or you're not worried about these types of things, you're attacking the people closest to you. You're attacking people on social media. You're starting fights with things that you shouldn't even be starting fights with. Like, it's so interesting how hard it might seem to just tell someone, hey, I want to have a conversation. That turns into like this whole, like, what does this person want from me? What am I getting from this? And it's like, no, it's
Stranger danger.
yeah, that's so weird. And I think that's because it's so easy to survive right now, which I think is like a good and a bad part about like people like discovering the internet and finding out a bunch of government stuff. It's like now you realize there's something bigger than you that is on top of you, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we evolved. I keep saying evolved over and over like I'm some kind of scientist, but we did evolve. And we always existed in these bands, in these groups of people, of a few dozen to maybe 100 people. And now we live in this world filled with billions, and we're so interconnected and we're so different. Now, you said better or worse. Lifespan, of course, it's better now because we can kill and all the diseases, and we have the better access to nutrition and medicine and life prolonging procedures. But there's so much People have restless leg syndrome, and they can't sleep at night because they're not fucking tired. I don't know what you're, you know, I don't know if you censor yourself or what
I
not. I
think
usually
I've
don't.
cursed a couple of
But
times already.
okay. So again, they're not fucking tired. That's why you have insomnia. If you go to bed at night and you're rolling around over and over again, it's because your body's not physically tired. If you go out and you take a shovel and you shovel dirt all day, when you go to bed, you're not going to be worrying about what's going on during the day. You're so physically tired, you're going to go to sleep. So that's what we did for thousands of years. And then all of a sudden, we're in this modern world where nothing is physically tired. I don't have to work for food. I can just walk to the fridge. I don't have to worry about shelter. I have lights and heat and cooling all the time. So I don't have to worry about anything. Of course, you're not tired. And it's going to lead to some aberrations in the system. Better or worse, would I prefer to live 1,000 years ago or now? Now, of course, no doubt about it.
It's funny you said the insomnia thing because I am an insomniac, but the way I cure it is just by I work out twice a day. If I still have that energy, I just go and do like maybe 2 hours or 3 hours on the elliptical a second time, and I'm ready to go to bed.
You know, our bodies were not designed, evolved to run down gazelle in the African plains. There's no animal that can run as long as us. There's a reason for that because we're so adaptable. We can sweat and we can cool ourselves. So when you take away all that physicality and you just sit here and you just talk and you just play video games, that's fun. It occupies this, but it's a whole system that works together. And we're losing that. And we've lost that over the last 20 or 30 years for sure. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but when I was a kid, I grew up.
Well, I was about to say, do you think that there's a probably maybe a small portion of the population that would be considered night watchers, the ones that were up like maybe late at night watching the campfire while the others slept?
I mean, I guess you could say that. I mean, that would be a very small part of the population. Um, I would say that no one really evolved to do that. They were chosen to do that and probably had to fight their evolution to do that because the sun comes up, your eyes pop open. You turn on a light in a room, your eyes come up. There's a reason for that. It's because we evolved to hunt in the daytime because we don't have great night vision, and it's easier for us to do that. So to say that some people were predisposed or evolved to stay up at night, I would say not. I'd say that's more of a function of environment and training and necessity rather than someone being evolved to do that. Now we're so adaptable, we can do all kinds of shit.
Well, scientific evolution would be different from man-made evolution. We're talking about like, for instance, if you end up training your body enough to, we all know people that work those like 2 a.m. to like, I don't know, the late night shifts. Those people are trained to do that
I
because
used to do that.
yeah, but they made their body do that. So I mean, if we talk about like a specific maybe portion of the population that likes to be up in the middle of the night while everyone else is asleep and then likes to sleep during the day, maybe they're designed to do that because they're coming from something that might have been forced evolution, I'd say.
I think evolution works in it's such a gradual thing. I don't think, I mean, personally, I don't think that we evolved to do that, but we can definitely train ourselves to do that. We have the capacity and the ability to do it. But coming from a guy who used to work from midnight till noon at some point in my life for about 5 years, I can tell you it's kind of a bitch to get used to working from midnight till noon at night, noon during the day. And, but you can do it. Yeah, we're adaptable as shit. And, it seemed to work out okay for me. I made it.
I'm just looking at like, because I think one thing I've talked about before is that like in the past 200,000 years, the only thing that's unexplainable is the way that why did the human race become the species whose brain evolved like the most? Like if you look maybe 50,000 years ago compared to where we are now, there's not much of a significant difference, but maybe our size a little bit. And that's just from an abundance of food. But our minds have become so overdeveloped compared to where we were back in the day. I mean, we think along the same basis, like we use the template, but our minds from like just the amount of information and everything that's kind of exposed into our brains has just, I mean, I could take a person from 400 BCE or something, and I could take you and put you guys both in the same exact clothing and sit you down in a room, and someone could walk by and be like, yeah, they're both the same. But mentally, you guys would be so completely different and so different evolved based on the exposure of what was around you.
Yeah, the exposure of education and as it compounds itself and as it kind of just explodes upon itself. Once you're born in this age, you have all this access to data, and all the people that came before you had a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So yes, you do become what would be considered a different person. But if you sit down and read those writings from the people from 2,400 years ago, there's not much different as far as processing power. It's just a compounding of all that information that you can understand and maintain. Now, I live out in the woods and I know a lot of rednecks out here. So you sit down that redneck next to Aristotle, they're going to be, it's going to be touch and go. The redneck knows how to turn on the computer and use a cell phone, but he doesn't know anything about himself. About by and large, I hate to just generalize because everybody's got their own exceptions. But if you set them down, the processing power on that guy, it's the same CPU. It's just the storage capacity, it has been filled over the course of time through the history of mankind. But the processing power, I think, is not changed radically in probably 50,000 years. I don't know. I haven't spoken with anybody from 50,000 years ago, but it seems to me that there's not a whole lot of change in the ability. It's just a compounding of the technology and the availability of it. Now, there's a lot of skills that have been lost. People from 200 years ago who could just survive using their physicality. So I know a little bit because I've had to live in the woods and I'm from the rural areas, but it wouldn't translate. I would die if I was just placed and said, okay, now you're a farmer. You have to build your own house and make your own food. I don't have those skills because those skills are no longer needed to a certain degree.
So, would the trade of information be the fact that when you do trade for information, such as like the ability to survive, becomes a little bit easier? You're kind of trading in the necessity of how to kill your prey, how to do all these basic essential stuff that used to be basic back in the day, but now is kind of turned into this different form, which is really interesting because I think in some ways we're more evolved than the past, but also the past is those types of people were more evolved in different ways that we are now neglecting today. And I think that comes to basic, maybe essentials of community, basic aspects of communication. I mean, the most people do nowadays, besides me and you talking through a Zoom call, is maybe a quick text. That's, you could say that's hieroglyphics, modern day, sure. But so much gets misconstrued when you rely so much communication into a device, when back in the day people used to actually go meet other people. You used to know your community, your town. Maybe in a small rural area, you might know a few people in your neighborhood, but nothing more than that. I mean, nobody really, right now we have the extents of the internet, and that becomes an issue when you start coming across different groups and you start becoming more controlled by certain aspects or certain notions or way someone could say something that might fit your narrative, but then you just become so ingrained into it that you don't, you lose communication with being able to communicate with anybody. I would say, like, if I have conversations with you for every single day for 365 days, and then I go and try and talk to someone that maybe doesn't have the same viewpoints as me or you might have, then I'm going to be completely out of my realm. I'm not going to know how to talk to them.
Yeah, the internet has done a crazy thing. Like right now, like you were talking about skills available. I can click the little button, I can do the Zoom call, you can do the Zoom call. Those are modern skills. Now, Aristotle didn't know anything about Zoom, but and he probably didn't know a whole lot about how to actually take care of himself because he grew up in a gilded age, so to speak. He was a philosopher king, so to speak. So now we only exist right now because we stand pretty much on the shoulders of a few giants who started things in motion, who made things available to us, like that light thing back there. I would have no idea unless someone told me, which I know how electricity works now because someone told me, but I would never figure it out because I'm not that level of intellect, but I can comprehend it. But now, if society collapses, am I going to be able to get these things going back up again? Probably not. I may have a little bit ability to make some, if something's, just something small wrong with the power plant, I might be able to get it going because I've been around industrial things most of my life. But a person who has no ability or history with that, they're done. And how long does it take to come back from that again once that's gone? And I wonder, I'm kind of going Conan the Barbarian into the way past here. I've always wondered how many ups and downs and revolutions society's gone through along the way. And we're kind of getting sci-fi fantasy here, but are we? Because we only know back a few thousand years when we look. It wasn't 10 years ago that it was commonly thought that humanity was 200,000 years ago. Now it's 300,000 years ago. So how far back did humanity actually go that we don't know about? And so how many times have we lost it and come back, lost it and come back, two different ways? And I'm not sure that I answered all your questions, but I kind of went off on a rail there. I do that from time to time.
Well, even 21 years ago, people thought the world was going to end when it hit 2000. So
They did. I was there.
it's pretty insane to see the growth. And then also, like, there are some things I wish we could pick back up, but I'm wondering because as long as technology keeps getting easier, the ease of access keeps getting a little bit like I'm a little bit scared of where it's going. I mean, nowadays people have Alexa that controls their whole house. I mean, sooner or later, the idea to flick on a light switch or grab a TV remote, that's not linked into your phone is going to be a foreign thing for a lot of people. And that's especially with the new generations coming up. I mean, they're being so insaturated with all this technology and stuff. It's going to be insane to see what maybe the next 20, 30 years is going to be like. Mowing the lawn is not going to be some dude that comes to your house and does it for you. It's going to be something completely different. And back in the day, you used to have to do it yourself.
Right. In 30 years from now, I'm going to be ancient. I'm going to be 71 years old. So I'm going to be that crotchety old man back in my day, back in
You'll
my
still look
youth,
great.
which is every generation though. Every generation does that. You can go back, like I'm kind of going on Greek stuff right now, but Socrates famously railed against the youth. He said, they didn't respect their elders. They didn't respect the institutions of the day. They don't stand up when an adult enters the room. And that was 2,500 years ago. Humans haven't changed a whole lot. We're always bitching about something that we don't understand because we're kind of trapped. Like, I don't know how old you are, but if you're kind of trapped in your era right now, and you'll be more malleable to a certain degree because you've seen so many changes so rapidly, and I've seen them over the course of a little bit longer time. Now, by the time you're 50 or 60 years old, you're going to be a crotchety old man to a certain degree. We all have that because there's only so much space up here. And then after a while, it's not that you can't understand the change. You just don't want to. It's like, fuck that. I still want to watch fucking Gremlins from the 80s and kick my feet up and play some Super Nintendo. That's just, you get stuck. Everybody gets stuck in that. Just like my parents used to rail against when they would watch me do those things. And they were talking about when they were a kid or when they were a youth. But things change so rapidly in the last 20 years, but they always change. They always change.
It's kind of like when that one person goes up to pay and they're like, "Do you have Apple Pay?" And you're like, "What?" It's like, I'm so confused. What do you mean Apple Pay? There are some people that are so pro. My buddy's all pro technology. His whole house is Alexa. I remember being at his house and I was like, "Where's your TV remote?" He's like, "We don't use remotes here. We use our phones." I'm like, I can't. I'm still a flick the light switch kind of guy. I don't have any Alexa, any Google Home, none of that. Not because I'm just turned off by it, but I'm like, I still like the basic functions. I understand the ease of access. That's what I'm saying. I understand the ease of access of having it in your home for you to be able to say, Alexa, lights off or something. But for me, I'm just like, I still don't want to lose that basic thing. In my mind, that's basic. Back in the day, it probably was way more advanced, but that to me is like the basic function of flicking on a light switch, the basic function of doing this or paying with cash or doing this type of thing. Not that I'm anti-government, more on the aspect of like I'm anti, like I don't want to get super lazy because once you open up that door, all it does is just flood right in.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm not, that's not a conspiracy to me. It's just kind of the way cool things happen along the way. And I was going to give you an example. Uh, my great grandfather was born in 1912, so he was old as shit. And he built his house in 1955. Now, up until that time, he always shit outdoors from the time he was a kid.
I
He had
still
an
do it.
outhouse. Sure, why not? It's fun. It's great freedom. But he had an outhouse behind the house. Until the day he died, he would not shit in the house, even though it was so convenient. They had a regular bathroom, but he would go out in the middle of the night behind the chicken coop and take a shit because that was barbaric to him and disgusting to him to shit inside the house. That's where we came from not that long ago. That was 1992 when he died, and he was still doing that. So we were shitting and fucking behind the chicken coop 30 years ago. And now we're talking about turning our lights on and taking rocket ships to Mars. And that we always thought we were going to be doing that, but it's kind of catching up rather rapidly now when you can just control your entire home with your phone. And I kind of sound like an old codger here, keep bringing up Socrates and my great grandfather, but it's just funny as you do get older to watch it, how it just kind of always kind of stays the same to a certain degree. Um, I hope my video feed's caught up.
So I wouldn't say the problems I guess have really haven't changed. We just kind of adapted new ones along the way. Like people always complain like my Wi-Fi isn't working. It's like, well, if you didn't have Wi-Fi, that problem wouldn't be into your life. All you've done, and like, but well, this app or this whatever fixes it. It's like, but that's created, it created the issue. It's only fixing the issue. So you're now worried about more issues, but you're buying a device to give you another issue that's going to eventually fix your issue once they update it or they upload something. I'm like, it's so much easier to do. Like, I would go back to Messenger Pigeon if it wasn't so much of a pain in the ass and Mike Tyson wasn't hoarding all my pigeons.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. We have to manufacture conflict because there's no real conflict. Everything's pretty much handled. Everything's pretty much taken care of. And we're not so much manufacturing some of this stuff. You make something and it has a fuck up, and then you get something else to fix that and it has a fuck up, and then these are modern problems, of course. And we're lucky to have these kind of modern problems rather than, oh, my baby just died when it was 2 days old. I mean, you can go around to these cemeteries around where I live because I'm out in the middle of nowhere, as I said, and you can see a mother and a father, and then they will invariably be buried around be about five of their children, all of them dead within the first year or two, because that's how it went. Everybody had a passel of children, but they had a passel because, for one thing, there was nothing to do, so you're fucking all the time because you worked all day, you fuck, and then you go to bed, and then you get up and you do it again. There's no TV, there's no distractions, there's no podcasts, so there's no great entertainment, at least out in the woods. So they did that, and then they had no health care. So infant mortality, the way that a child is born is it's a terrible trade-off. If you want to walk around on two legs, your hips are going to be small. So it's hard to get that baby out of there. And when it does come out, it's painful for both of them. So you can go to any of these cemeteries and they're filled with babies. It's pretty cool now that we have Wi-Fi problems instead of dead babies everywhere. But there will come a point, I think in time, there has to come a point where everything resets. And you've listened to this stuff before. I don't know you at all, really. My name's Mike, by the way, not Ryan. But when you think about, you've
I
listened
called
to these
you
things.
Ryan, didn't I? Why did
Yeah,
I say Ryan?
I think because I look back through some of your podcasts, you seem to have a friend named Ryan that you've had on several times. Maybe that was just time and time again coming back for you.
I think you got me thinking about Ryan Reynolds. I'm sorry, man. Mike, I'm spacing, bro. That's my first
It's
time I've
fine,
ever
man.
missaid somebody's name.
It's fine. It's not a big deal. It's really not. We just met each other like 2 days ago online via tweet text back and forth. But it's much better to have the problems that we have now. But I do think that we at some point in the future will have those problems again, whether it's a big solar flare or a comet or an asteroid or a meteor or maybe just social strife. People laugh about that shit about the bunker people out in Montana, but if you don't know how to actually have the basics of survival, you're fucked if that actually does happen. And I'm not a prepper. I'm not ready either. I got like 6 cans of chili in there. I'm not really prepping for the future either. But I'm a little bit more prepared than some people are, especially in a gigantic city with so many millions of people. And we watched that during the freeze when the electricity went out in these large Texas towns. People were losing their fucking minds because yes, they're from Texas and they're supposed to be these great country people, but they're just city folk. They don't know how to do anything. They're lined up behind Whataburger and Burger King hoping they have some food because they don't have any fucking food at home. That shit really goes down. And if you don't believe that, you can watch any place in any other continent on the planet except for Antarctica.
Basically,
I'm sorry if I go off on monologues.
No, that's perfect. It's kind of what my show is kind of the whole point, really. But if you look at like civilizations collapsing or eventual collapse happening again, I mean, everyone talks about it, when civilization going to come to this point. And the one thing I see a benefit in social media for, or even the internet for, is being able to expose a lot of things that have been exposed before, especially with the government or things that are going on in the world. I think it's a great awakening for a lot of things, but it also creates an issue because then people start trying to find plot holes and trying to poke holes in things that necessarily there are some things that you should be poking holes in. But when you start doing something like QAnon that started for a good reason, but it happens to be this giant manhunt and rabbit egg thing where you're just really attacking the own people that are trying to do the same thing as you, it becomes an issue and it creates an era of schizophrenia. I mean, yeah, I understand the whole it's so much better medical wise, but I think there needs to be a limiter on the things that we're able to consume. I still think, when it kind of started with reality television, people love that conflict and love watching it on the it's good entertainment. But then you started getting tablets in schools, and I just saw on Twitter, it was trending about like a couple weeks ago. Anne Frank, she was trending on Twitter because some person commented, was like, "How dare you put some girl's diary as a published work or whatever?" And then, like, that person was expecting like an army of people to
Right.
support what she said, but then instead she got comments like it wasn't even that good of a diary, and it's like, yeah, like, it's horrible, but it's like, I don't, yeah, we're celebrating the work, or we published a work of a girl's diary who was hiding from the Nazis. It's horrible that that's even a thing, but the fact that society and the people that she thought she was going to get support from end up saying it wasn't even that good of a fucking book. She should have been more quiet. That's what they said. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is what happens when you have too much freedom, and that's what the internet can give you.
Well, it's too much comfort. It's
Yeah.
too much comfort. It's absence of real conflict. I mean, this girl, I read the Diary of Anne Frank when I was a teenager, as most people should. She was hiding from the worst scourge of humanity for as long as she could, and then she was fucking killed. And then some modern bitch who has no real troubles, or her Wi-Fi may go out and she can't get her Alexa lights to come on. It's like, oh, the quality in chapter 3 was a bit off. Didn't like the prose there. You know what? That's amazing. That And then I love the fact that she was worried about the gender part of it, or the invasion of privacy. It's like, what are we doing reading this poor girl's diary? Why do you think that? I don't get the disconnect. I guess actually I do. The disconnect is how everything has to be framed in a certain way. It can't just be like, this girl was obviously confessing to herself, and anybody who could listen, she wanted a record of something out there, probably mostly for herself, but also to put it out there. And then modern times, with the absence of Nazis, which the absence of real fascism, people are worried about this kind of nonsense. It's beautiful. George Carlin was right. We are all diseased.
I see. Here's the thing: is I think it is eventually going to get to this point, much like we're seeing. I don't know if you heard the podcast with I think her name's Sandra Swan or something like that on Joe Rogan, but she was talking about with plastics how like
Yeah,
from 1973 to 2011, the percentage of fertility rate in people dropped from 97% to, I think, no, 93% to 47%.
something like that. I don't remember the actual numbers, but yeah,
So
that's about right.
eventually it's going to probably hit zero if we don't change our ways. And I don't see people really caring enough because it's not affecting them. It's going to affect later generations. They're not going to really support the change. So I'm seeing an eventual collapse or eventual cutoff of maybe the human species. And I'm trying to think, is that necessarily a bad thing when you read a tweet about Anne Frank, or when you see someone like Demi Lovato, when DMX died, said that could have been me, and everyone's like, what the fuck?
True. It's true. It could have been her, and
Oh,
it will be her at some point. I just
it's
want
an
her to know
attention
that.
seeking civilization, and it sucks because everyone is trying their best. Not even necessarily that's how they feel, but they're going to say what they think the world wants them to say, and the act to get followers. We're all building our own cults. When you have followers, that's how it started back in the day. Now it's just on social media where they can go, let's cancel this business, let's do this, vegan or meat. Who gives a shit? Shut the hell up, go to work, do whatever you, I don't know. Maybe I'm just that guy that's like off to the sideline. Like, why aren't we just living our own lives? Why does everyone have to associate and try and get into someone else's life and say, you need to be doing this and you need to be doing that? I have an issue with authority. If you tell me to do something, I'm going to end up doing the opposite. It's not because I hate you. It's just an act of, I don't like being told what to do, because I don't think anybody should be on a higher pedestal than another person. And our civilization, our society is running off that. And I think that's an issue with people nowadays, is that we're noticing there's something on a higher pedestal than us, like a shadow society, but it's mostly just a bunch of government people realizing that we're waking up to their little system that we've been kind of underplaying a little bit. And they're like, fuck it, let's add more shit in there and mix it up and get you all scared. And now there's this idea of fear that comes along with a pandemic, where there are people that are attached to the fear narrative. They love this. Put a mask on. Oh, it's still out. There's another spike coming. It's like, what are you doing? Like, people are trying their best to just be able to survive, and you're fucking preying off that fear. And that happens in so much. Fauci used to be the main person. Everyone was like, fuck yeah, Fauci, fuck yeah. Now if you look up his name on Twitter, it's not good. It's really bad. Like everyone's like, fuck this guy. And I'm like, I think he's established so much because he doesn't know, which I understand we all really don't know. But he's done so much where now he has to try and find a way to backtrack it because the truth is back at the beginning. And he can't say, I'm sorry, everything I've said is wrong. Let's go back to the beginning. Because then you let the door open for you were wrong about all that stuff. Why should I trust you now?
Well, I mean, you had a lot of different points there. To kind of work backwards there with the Fauci thing. He's the expert when it came out. Did you know who Fauci was before the pandemic? You ever heard of the guy?
He was the guy that was running the main lab of research that was going on that
Sure.
tested for coronavirus.
Right. At the time. But he's been a political guy for many, many years, but he never had his moment in the sun like he did with this one. So he comes out, he's the expert, and now he has to make up these, well, he doesn't really have to, but he does make up all these mandates and these rules, and it kind of gets into society, and he becomes a hero to some and a villain to others. He's just a 80-year-old dude who's has been doing science his entire life. He's been a scientist to a degree his entire life, but he's also been a politician to a degree. So, he's coming out I think he legitimately was saying the things that he thought were correct. Now, he comes from a society where he lives in a close knit, centrist, or surrounded by people all the time. So he's very not accustomed to like a independent spirit. It's always we're always a community. We're always working together here. So when he makes these mandates and makes these suggestions for rules, they don't really always take into what like pragmatism, like practical things. You can't trick a guy who's a pragmatist into wearing a mask. And I'm not trying to make this into a mask thing because everybody can wear a mask if they fucking want to. I never wore a mask through the entire pandemic I never had a sniffle, but that's anecdotal, right? So I realize there are lots of people who died from comorbidities in these large urban centers, and they were old, but overall was 96.4% survival rate, some shit like that. But you said a lot of things there, and nobody really likes to be controlled. At least they say they don't. But humanity has always been controlled. There's always been a hierarchy, and this is what's weird for us now is there's a hierarchy, but it's not physically enforced. Like the serfs or peasants, if you didn't do what you were supposed to, they'd just behead you. Now it's a little different, but there's still a control measure there. And myself personally, I don't think that COVID was a thing for mass control from the get-go. I think it just kind of became that. It kind of became a convenient thing along the way. And I think it was a one-upmanship. One government guy would say, oh, we're going to have these measures. The other guy would say, oh, I'm at least going to have those measures, and then maybe a little bit more. Even if it didn't make any logical sense, for a while they had public appeal and public support behind them. But then toward the end, people just got frustrated and tired. Now, I thought when the pandemic first started, people will get tired of it about 15 to 20 days in. Meanwhile, here we are over a year later, and finally people are getting tired of it. I just went on a road trip out throughout the entire Western United States. And to see the differences in the states, you go to New Mexico, it's locked down. It's still locked down. You go to Nevada, it's the same way because they want to get their mask. But if you go to Montana, Wyoming, I don't think they even know what a mask is. They never even heard of that shit because they never did it to begin with.
Canada, for instance, they're going to be on lockdown until the end of May. So
yeah, those fucking psychos.
I got friends in Canada. What's wrong with them?
Yeah. The draconian measures that they've implemented and the people are just accepting it. That would be nothing wrong with them as a people.
Well, a lot of them, especially like the ones, they don't really like it either. But the issue is,
of course not.
They can't say anything because they don't have freedom of speech, which is why I was like, America's not looking so bad. Everybody want to shits on us. And I'm like, hang on a second. China, that is my main focus right now, is to talk about like that they're winning a war that we don't even know we're fighting in. Like we're thinking guns and all this. I'm like, they're just going to slowly start taking us over bit by bit. And now everything's become this, like we stopped a boat. I keep mentioning this, but we stopped a boat of 13 tons of human hair coming over here on a shipment. And we sent it back because our main thing was like, it came from a concentration camp that was in China. So we're like, I don't want anything to do with this. Let's push it back. When we sent it back, China said, what are you doing? And we said, we know where that came from. Did it come from the concentration camp? They called us racist for sending it back. And it's like, but it did come from that. And they're like, okay. And then they started saying that they were going to do all these different measures and pull out all this stuff and mess up business ties where they were going to cut us off. And now we have to play nice. We can't question things now that's going on when it comes to Nike sweatshops or something like that on the idea that it's racism. And it's like, and it was up in part of Trump because when he called it China virus and all these types of things, it did spark the Asian hate movement thing that happened. And now you can't even testify if any of that stuff does come from that because then it's considered racist. And it's like now we're destroying ourselves with wokeness. I'm like, I don't understand what's happening.
Okay, first of all, do you actually think there is an Asian hate epidemic throughout the land, or is it just
No,
isolated? Of course not. Of course not. It's just a narrative, another narrative that's put forth. And we only see these narratives. I say we, but it's put forth over and over. Another young Asian woman or an old Asian man was targeted today in Central Park. No, how many other people were targeted of different colors and different races? Of course, it's just a narrative. And
it's the
China doesn't give a
news. The
fuck.
news sucks
Yeah, exactly.
dick.
Well, it's 24 hours a day, man. It's constant. You got to put some shit up there, and then you repeat the same cycles. I used to watch this shit all the time. Constant cable news, just a cycle over and over, and you could even watch it. For an instance, when the plane crashes, that's a big story, right? It's a big story. And then for 2 weeks after that, they will put up any tiny little crop duster plane crash they can find just to follow it out until it finally peters out. And what's so great about this new news cycle is that it never peters out because there's always something else. It's always black hate, Asian hate, white supremacy, fascism. It's always something over and over. And I can tell it's manufactured because I saw when it started. I saw when it really started, in 2016, when you first started hearing about all these different movements and all this shit. I'm sure it was before to a certain degree, but that was really the explosion because I was confused. I was like, what? Why is everybody so mad about it? Because it never occurred to me. But now it's a constant. And from 2016, it's been going on and on and on. And I think it had the genesis before that. Now with China, they don't give a fuck about any of that stuff because they control their country with an iron fist, and they don't give a shit what you say about them because they know you're not going to do anything to them. There's nothing we can do to them other than what are we going to do? Cut off trade with them? We're way far down that rabbit hole. There's no way we could just cut off trade with them.
Well, that's why
I think this was made in China.
Well, that's why they established tariffs was to be able to at least have some type of way to be able to deal with things that we have to want to put our foot down with, especially if you want to talk about like if we were buying masks from them.
Time ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we still have tariffs, but they're just not, we're so lenient on what does happen or what goes through.
Because people want to buy this shit. They don't want to spend. It's capitalism, man. You don't want to spend $5 for this thing.
It's the issue of like nobody wants to focus on where it comes from. Like nobody raised questions at the human hair until someone did, and then everyone was like, and it's like if you just raise questions to where your shit comes from, how it's being made, you start noticing a lot. And I think people naturally don't want to buy something if they know it's forced slave labor for it. But nobody also wants to raise the question if it is. And then this becomes this whole thing. And then it all turns into, I'm like, if we're going to battle on Twitter, can we battle about something that might be positive? Like the fact that Clubhouse is known to sell your data because it's a China made app. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Everyone's inviting me to it. I'm like, I'm not joining that. Like it was legal in China for 6 weeks. And then China pulled the plug on that shit, realizing that the people in China were talking to people outside of China. I'm like, what are we doing? Well, our government is no different. They are just very open about their shit. Our government's like, we're just going to do it secretly.
To a great degree. And I think most people don't want to support slave labor. But when they do go in a store, they don't really look at the whole slave labor thing. They look, oh, this is more than this, and I have this much money in my back pocket. That's people vote. Right. Well, it's Coca Pepsi, but it's also which one is a lot cheaper than the other one. It comes down to just pure supply and demand, pure capitalism at that point. Because when you go buy your cell phone, I always get an off-brand cell phone, just me, because I don't want to spend $1,000 for a cell phone. I pay like $300-400 for a Motorola, and I'm fine. It does what I need to. But I used to have Apple, and I used to have Samsung. But then I thought, I wish I could say that I was noble. It's like, they're making sweatshop labor with iPhones. No, it's just cheaper, right? So that's the whole reason why I bought that thing. It wasn't some great uh, crusade against these people, jumping out of the buildings in China where they're making these cell phones. But it is funny to think that a company like Apple can just use that kind of labor and get away with it forever, and everybody just kind of slides it away because it's a product they want. That's what it comes down to. I worked in Asia in shipyards building oil rigs. I would see the actual modern day slave labor coming there. Now, they call them contract labor, but they have people from Pakistan, India, China, all the Southeast Asia countries, thousands of them coming in there to hand build these rigs because they don't want to pay the labor in the United States. They're out to make money. So they build the rigs cheaply. They use slave labor. They treat them like dog shit. They house them in what's called a Connex box. So they work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, and they sleep at night in an unair conditioned Connex box. And they do that for 4 years. And they make barely anything. And I was there watching that. And then I built helped build two of the rigs, and we came back over here, and that was that. Those people over there, that's still slavery going on. The Singaporeans are the rich ones, and then everybody else who comes into the country just work for them very cheaply.
Now,
That's going on right now.
see, the issue is I also understand where people say I can't deal with this shit because even from your experience of what you just said, it's like, what are you going to be able to do? It's like the best you could do is to make sure that you have the tools to survive, which is probably like most of the population here. I always mention there's two types of people in the world. There's people that want to be left the fuck alone, and there's people that won't leave them the fuck alone. And I'm like, but there's got to be a way to slow work, slow pull, somehow get this type of let's try and focus on some inner economy type stuff, some foundational grounds that we're on. I mean, but everyone's like kind of like, oh, they just threw a new app at us. Let's run with this. It's like, well, shit, like we got a major thing going on here with the fact that there's a lot of mental health issues going on in our country right now. We don't even know what the fuck to do, but everyone's like, well, I can't complain because Mortal Kombat came out. It's like, that might help your mental health for an hour, but not going to help it for like the next month or so, stopping you from put a bullet in your head.
You're always going to have people talking about it, like you and I are talking about it right now, but we're not really changing anything. People aren't going to change shit until the first bomb drops or the first asteroid hits, until there's some great tragedy that makes you do it. We kind of exist in a static state. We like to think that we're evolving, but really we're trying to get through life, and we're trying to do our podcast, and some of us are playing video games or waiting on the new Mortal Kombat to come out. We can't wait for it. But generally, you're not going to change things. You're not going to try to change things unless it really affects you and it affects you on a big level. I think that's just human nature. You can see throughout history, World War II, World War I, those things had to happen, right? People in World War II, the U.S. wasn't even going to get involved. We were just selling weapons like we've always done. We're just down in South America later on, but we were just selling the shit, trying to keep our hands clean. And then we got attacked, or maybe it was set up to get us in. I'm not going to get into that fucking conspiracy theory, but anyway, we got involved, and we had to. And then after that, we had to manufacture to get involved in Vietnam and Korea and all those different conflicts along the way. But those aren't world-changing conflicts. Those aren't the giant asteroid hitting you kind of thing. That's what takes to end these sort of things. Or people have to rise up themselves. We're always thinking we have to save people. We have to save them. If China wants to save it, they can save themselves. I think China is kind of okay with being China to a large degree. We hear about the outliers who don't like it. But I think China, from talking to Chinese people in China, actually, I was in Malaysia and Singapore, they seem to be cool with China. They kind of like their country. They like their history. They know that some of the shit's nefarious. They know they're stealing shit left and right. And to a large degree, they're kind of fine with it. And that's not to paint them as a bad person or bad people.
I think our issue is the fact that we try and get our hands involved, thinking we can change people into our way of thinking. And with China, it's foolish to think that we're ever going to have the ability to make them think completely different or change their whole government. But it's still like, we're America. We'll be able to do it. It's like, all right, hang on a second. Let's focus on the issues we have here. We had a pandemic relief package that came out to us. That was what, $1,400, but there was 800 billion or something that went over to Pakistan for gender studies. And you start to realize where the lobbyists are. And I'm like,
I don't think it was that much, but it was money, right?
it was a lot of fucking money,
It was a
man.
lot of fucking money.
I know I said 8 million before, and then I looked it up and it was like 800 million. So I think it's
Yeah, that seems accurate. 800 seems good.
but that was like the lowest one on the little tab of listings of all the places that we gave money to. And I'm like, when you stop caring about your own country and start just giving all the money to all the people that you're trying to stay friends with, you start to realize nobody fucking likes you. It's like when you're at the playground handing out Jolly Ranchers, and then you're out of Jolly Ranchers and all your fucking friends go away. These people that you thought they loved you, they don't fucking love you. They just want what you had.
Yeah, I mean, that's basic stuff that we've always done that, at least for the last 50 to 70 years. You know, you got to grease the palms a little bit to get them to like you. But when you think about when you it's funny to me when you think about $1,400 and everybody's not everybody, but a lot of people were very excited to get that $1,400. I heard people actually say I got stimulated, kind of a joke sort of thing. But the package is almost 3 times what was paid to the people. So to the actual system that we have, we know they're stealing. We know they're putting all this shit through. We don't know exactly what it is because the bill's this fucking thick. We know, but we're like, okay, well, I got my $1,400. I guess I can go get that cool. TVs are nice and cheap right now, and I can put a down payment on a new car. I don't have to worry about that shit. But meanwhile, Pakistan gets 800 million. You think Pakistan really got 800 million? By the way, that wasn't Pakistan getting 800 million for fucking gender studies.
I can look that one up. Hang on a second.
You can look. No, I believe what you said, and I believe that they got $800 million. But you think they're using it for gender studies?
Oh, hell no. That's not happening. That's not happening at all. That's out the window already, dude. We had $850 million that was given to Belasio's wife for mental health in New York, and then she lost it. Like, I don't know where it went. It's like you lost $850 million for mental health. And I said this to someone, and they gave me the worst response I've ever heard. They said, that's politics for you. That's not a good answer. That's not a good answer.
Yeah, 850 million. That'll get you through the winter at least. I don't know about you, but I've never had 850 million. That people just throw these numbers out because we just make these numbers up now. 2.1 trillion because it was just made up money. It doesn't actually exist. It's just numbers. Click, click, click. Now you have 2.1 trillion. It's fiat, right? You have faith that money exists, but it doesn't exist. So it has power in the world for as long as we can make it have power in the world. So at some point, when you start throwing these numbers out, like you look at the education I think the budget a few years ago, last time I looked, was like 59 billion. Like 59 billion, that seems like a good number. Can you actually imagine 59 billion of anything? That's a very small in comparison to say defense with 900 billion or 1.1 trillion, depending on how you look at it. So yeah, these are all made up numbers anyway.
Wait, when you say 59 billion, it really gets crazy when you think that a 0.1 of that billion is $100 million.
Yeah, I brought it up because it's low compared to a lot of other stuff.
Where the fuck's that money going to? Because I don't see our education system doing what it's supposed to be doing with that money.
You can't fix these problems with just throwing money at it, buying people tablets. Oh, look, everybody in the school has a tablet.
We can go to Anne Frank's house through a simulation.
Exactly. We can tour Anne Frank. We hate how she writes. We don't like her rhyme scheme in some of her poetry, but we can at least look at from online. That does nothing. There's a fundamental breakdown in some places with some people with how the family is managed because of so many different modern things that are going on, and we can explain it away however we want to. But yes, of course, $59 billion is a fuck ton of money, but $59 billion on what? We don't know. We don't have any accounting. Nobody has to show a receipt of everything. If you try to go look up the budget, it's just going to be these blank things that show 59 billion for this, but it's not going to give you an itemized line by line. And even if it could, you couldn't read the shit. You start thinking about each bill, like that last stimulus bill was what, 2,500 pages or some such nonsense like that.
And a lot of it was about aliens too.
Oh God, I'm glad. I'm actually glad about that. Can't wait. I'm
I
right
hope they.
there.
I think if there is aliens, which I'm not going to say there's not, because to think we're the only ones in the universe, that's insane. But I've heard two really good accounts of people that have never met each other through episodes that have described the same exact thing. But I hope they come down here and they look at us like a sick dog that's about to be like dead. And they're like, let me fucking help you out or something like
I think
intervention.
they're probably going to be too woke. They're like, we can't interfere with this. You know, if you even observing it, we're changing it. So we're definitely not going to touch it. And I don't want to sound like a crackpot either, but I'm one of those guys who's seen a UFO in the Gulf of Mexico in the middle of the day. It I was in my office. I was on a rig. I was working rigs, and one of the guys came in and said, "Hey man, I'm gonna do a little affectation here. Hey man, you want to come inside and you want to come outside and take a look at this UFO?" I said, "What the fuck are you talking about?" So I walked outside and I looked up into the middle of the day. There's 30 people on the deck staring up, looking at this thing, and it's gigantic. I can't give you the scale. It's thousands of feet up in the atmosphere, shaped like almost like a cross, domed at the top, and it's just there. It's just hovering for 5, 6 minutes. Then a cloud goes by it, and then it's gone. And then everybody on the rig just goes back to work like nothing happened. I walk, I walk back in my office like we just we just all saw that, and it's like nothing. Now it's like okay, back to welding. We got to pick up this thing with a crane, like nothing happened. So I don't know what it was. It was unidentified. It was flying, and it was an object. So I don't know what the fuck it was. But ever since that day, I've just to to see or hear people describe it and then hear the reactions to people. I'm like one of those guys now that's saw a UFO at once a few years back. So yeah, I just thought I'd put that out there and get my whack job shit out there for
Holy
everybody
shit,
to
man!
hear.
If they're gonna be real, can they just like let me give me some Logan Paul money or some shit? Give me some ability to be. I'll be a YouTuber. I'll probably do more beneficial things with my money than get a fucking tattoo on my leg that says "Got your hat." I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, but to actually see that and you're staring at it and you know that you're thinking to yourself, am I nuts right now? Like you, I've always thought there's got to be something out there, but I never gave any credence to any of these stories until I actually saw it myself. And I'm like, okay, now what do I do? This is a moment in my life where it's pre UFO. Now it's post UFO. Now I don't dwell on it. It's just something that I saw. It was there. Now what it was, I don't fucking know, but it definitely was there, and then it wasn't. And there's no way to explain the physics of it, the massive scale of it. It wasn't just like a little disc. This thing would have been thousands of feet tall if it was there. So I don't want to harp on it. I don't want to stick with it. But there's definitely some shit out there. And living out here in the woods at night, if you go outside and look at the sky, you can imagine yourself living thousands of years ago and what those guys would have seen because they had no TV at night. Once they finished fucking the old lady, they rolled over and stared at the sky. So yeah, they knew a lot of shit that's going on. They saw a lot of shit, and then it translated through our culture.
Did you ever try and find Bigfoot out there, or at least look around?
No,
No.
man, I can't do Bigfoot. I like the idea of Bigfoot, but that's just, I mean, come on, man.
Did you
There's
watch the
so many people.
Sasquatch documentary on Hulu?
I haven't seen that. No, the last thing I watched on Sasquatch was actually Bob Goldthwait's movie about Sasquatch.
Yes, I love Bobcat Goldthwait. So if you watch this Sasquatch documentary, it's like new, everybody's talking about it, but it's like, dude, if you're a Bigfoot fan and you watch it, you're like, obviously a Bigfoot person did not make this because it starts off a guy go, so we were robbing this cannabis farm illegally in the middle of night, right? And then three people died and they were ripped to shreds, and we think it was Bigfoot. And then they show like the first two episodes, and it's a 3 episode series. So the first two is just a giant old farmer showing you all the nugs that he grows on his farm. And then it turns out at the ending, it was a killer, like murderer guy, a drug dealer named Bigfoot. And he ripped up the bodies to make it look like a Bigfoot monster. And then I was like, what the fuck?
That's a great documentary. I would actually like to watch that because that's, Occam's razor, right? The most obvious answer is the answer most of the time. If you think it's a hoax, it probably is a hoax 99.9% of the time. And surely we would have found something by now if as many people that have looked for Bigfoot, and Joe Rogan's talked about this at length, and on Rocky Mountain High, one of his specials, he has this great bit about it, which I'm sure you're familiar with if you like Rogan. And then all the documentaries along the way, the Patterson footage, all that good stuff. It's come on, that's all nonsense to me. You can believe whatever you want, but that doesn't even. I guess if I saw Bigfoot, I'd have to change my mind, just like I had to change my mind on the UFO thing. I saw something. Now, if you surely with as many devices that we have now, and as many people that are in the woods and the trail cams are amazing now. They're HD, they're automatic. They send the video stream directly to your phone. Something would have been caught along the way. That's to me that's a non-issue, but it is great. I love the fact that the serial killer was called Bigfoot. That's great. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Michael, are you sure you don't want to buy some Sasquatch hair?
I mean, depends on how much you have and what part of China is it from.
It's I like that. Michael, look, dude, we've been talking for a good bit now, man. I know you haven't started the podcast. You haven't done an episode yet?
Now we've put 2 out. I will actually be putting another one up today and maybe 2 more today because I put about 10 in the can, 8 or 10 in the can, so that we have a little backlog to get them out.
Put the link in your bio, bro.
I'm going to. Yeah, I've been lazy on that. I've been kind of working on editing them somewhat to a certain degree and just life in general. But yeah, I'm going to work on that some tonight. Actually, I'll be putting the link in my bio and available on all the Spotify, and it's not on Apple yet, because of that long process that you have to go through. But I got all the smaller ones knocked off: Stitcher, Amazon, all that good stuff.
And what's it called again?
It's called Crudely Drawn Conclusions with Dave and Mike. Dave is my co-host, and he's obviously not here. Great guy. Worked with him for many years.
Well, Mike, I'll make sure I'll get you. I'm definitely going to get you back on to chat again, dude. This was fun, man. I really appreciate you giving me your time today, man.
I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.